The metallic taste of filtered air filled Lieutenant Cale Masson's lungs as he adjusted his tactical visor. The wasteland stretched before him, a desolate canvas of rust-cold dust and skeletal structures that once housed civilization. He ran his fingers through his short-cropped hair, feeling the smoothness of his scalp, where others bore the raised tissue of battle scars. Soldier without scars, they called him behind his back. At first it had been whispered with envy, then with suspicion. No one survived 7 years on the front lines without collecting marks of close calls, especially not a scout lieutenant who specialized in high-risk reconnaissance. Perimeter scanning complete. Sector F-12 clear, Masson reported into his comm unit. The words automatic after years of service. His eyes, however, were fixed on an anomaly his visor had detected. A slight distortion in the air about 2 clicks west. Control, I'm tracking possible cloaked movement at coordinates 3472 and 09. Proceed with caution, Lieutenant. Backup is 20 minutes out. Madsen unholstered his pulse rifle, the weapon humming to life in his hands. No time. If it's what I think it is, 20 minutes is 19 too many. He moved with practiced efficiency, each step calculated to minimize sound against the brittle terrain. The distortion grew more pronounced as he approached. A telltale shimmer that marked an enemy stealth drone. They'd been losing scouts to these things for months. Silent killers that gathered intel and sometimes eliminated high V-value targets before disappearing. Massen positioned himself behind the husk of what might have once been a transport vehicle and calibrated his rifle to anti-stealth frequencies. 1 shot, maybe 2 if he was lucky, before the thing would either attack or self-destruct. The drone hovered, seemingly unaware of his presence. Something about its behavior was off. Most scout drones moved in deliberate patterns, but this one drifted almost aimlessly, occasionally jerking as if malfunctioning. Perfect. Masson exhaled slowly, positioned his finger on the trigger, and froze. The drone had suddenly rotated mid-air, its primary sensor array swiving with mechanical precision until its lens was pointed directly at him. Not scanning, not searching, focused as if it had known his location all along. For a fraction of a second, Madsen felt a chill of recognition pass between himself and the machine. Then he squeezed the trigger, and the rifle discharged a concentrated electromagnetic pulse. The blast hit its mark, and the drone's cloaking field sputtered and died. It fell from the air with surprising heaviness, crashing into the dust without. The explosion Madsen had braced for. Control target neutralized, no detonation. Madsen approached cautiously, rifle trained on the fallen object. This isn't standard configuration, something's off. Need eyes on this. My gut says we're dealing with something new. He stopped mid-sentence as the drone's outer shell retracted, revealing not the expected tangle of circuitry and weapon systems, but a humanoid form. A woman, her skin a pale blue that seemed to capture and reflect the wasteland's dim light, lay unconscious within what now appeared to be more capsule than drone. She wore a form-fitting combat suit of unfamiliar design, covered in microsensors and adaptive camouflage panels. As he examined the capsule's interior, his blood ran cold. Etched into the control panel was an identification marker in an unfamiliar script. But beneath it, in standard military notation, Priority Object K. Madsen. His name specifically designated as a priority. Near the control interface, something else caught his eye. His name again, this time Rowley scratched into the metal by hand, not printed by machine. The marks looked deliberate, almost reverent, as if someone had traced the letters repeatedly over time. The capsule's targeting systems flickered to life for a moment, despite the damage, running a facial recognition scan on him. His features were outlined in red on the display, with a message pulsing beneath. Target preserved. Do not eliminate. Before he could process this, the woman's eyes fluttered open, startlingly vivid against her blue skin, and locked directly onto his. There was no confusion in her gaze, no disorientation from the crash, only clear, unmistakable recognition, as if she had been looking for him specifically, as if she knew him intimately. He took an involuntary step back, unsettled by the intensity of her stare. Then her eyes closed again, consciousness slipping away. Control. Masson's voice remained, steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. It's a person, female, blue-skinned, out cold, but breathing. And she... He hesitated, the implications too strange to process. She has my name marked everywhere, like she's been searching for me, like she knows me, as the extraction team secured the area and prepared the mysterious figure for transport. Matson couldn't shake the feeling that he'd seen her before, perhaps in the peripheral shadows of previous missions. Those moments when luck seemed too convenient, when danger veered inexplicably away. His gaze lingered on her face, serene despite her circumstances, features delicate yet somehow resilient. She didn't look like an enemy, but in Madson's experience, that meant nothing at all. No identification, no match in any allied or known enemy database. The intelligence officer's frustration was evident as she gestured to the screens displaying their captive. Her genetic structure isn't even in our xenobiology records. It's like she doesn't exist. 3 days had passed since Madsen had brought in the blue-kinned woman. She had been placed in medical containment, treated for minor injuries sustained during the crash, but had yet to speak or even acknowledge any attempts at communication. Earlier that morning, Madsen had witnessed something peculiar while passing the medical wing. A young medic had tripped while carrying a tray of supplies, sending vials of medications scattering across the floor. As the medic scrambled to recover the critical medicines, one vial had rolled toward the observation window of the containment room. Through the one-way glass, Matson watched as the blue woman suddenly tensed, her eyes tracking the endangered vial. When a passing guard nearly crushed it underfoot, her hand had pressed against the glass, fingers spled as if reaching to save it, though she couldn't possibly have done so through the barrier. The moment passed unnoticed by everyone except Madsen, who found himself wondering about the instinct to preserve that which was not hers to protect. "What about the equipment?" Madsen asked, leaning forward to study the holographic display of items recovered from the capsule. "That's where it gets interesting." The officer pulled up a detailed scan of what appeared to be a tactical planning device. "This contains comprehensive data on your last operation, entry points, patrol schedules, defensive measures. She manipulated the display to highlight specific areas, and notations on how to bypass every trap and trigger point your team established." The officer hesitated, then pulled up another file. "We also found this." She activated a small projector removed from the woman's equipment. A holographic image materialized above the table, a 3-dimensional rendering of Madsen's face rotating, slowly, accompanied by biometric data and movement patterns. Beneath it, in the same unknown script they'd found in the capsule, was a marker that their translation algorithms had partially decoded. "Primary Guardian, do not eliminate." Madsen stared at his own face hovering in the air between them. A perfect digital ghost annotated, with information so detailed it could only have been gathered through prolonged, intimate observation. "She wasn't just tracking your operations, Lieutenant," the officer said quietly. "She was tracking you specifically, exclusively." Madsen felt his blood run cold. "She knew our entire operation before we executed it." "Not just knew it," the officer corrected. "She annotated it. Look at these markings." She zoomed in on a series of symbols overlaid on the operation map. These indicate alternative routes, timing adjustments almost like she was running a parallel mission. Madsen finished, a chill settling in his spine. "Has she spoken to any of the interrogators? That's another problem. She doesn't respond to any known language or communication protocols, just watches. Sometimes I swear she's about to say something, then nothing." The officer hesitated, lowering her voice. "Command's losing patience. If she doesn't start talking soon, they'll stop seeing her as a person and start treating her as a thing. An asset, to be harvested or disposed of." Madsen stared at the monitor, showing the containment room where the woman sat perfectly still on the edge of a medical bed. Her posture relaxed, despite the restraints on her wrist. Her eyes tracked the movement of the camera as it adjusted. "She understands everything," he said quietly. "I want to question her myself. The commander won't authorize. Look at this." Madsen pointed to the tactical data. She knows my movements better than I do. This isn't random intelligence gathering. This is focused surveillance on me. An hour later, after heated debate with his superiors, Matson entered the containment room alone against protocol. The woman's eyes fixed on him immediately. A flash, if what might have been recognition or relief, quickly masked behind an impassive gaze. "Who are you?" he asked simply, taking a seat across from her. She remained silent, but her eyes never left his face, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Why do you have detailed plans of my operations? Why are you tracking me?" Still nothing, though he noticed a slight tension in her shoulders at the accusatory tone. "I need to know if my team is compromised, if other operations have been affected." The silence stretched between them, heavy with